So now it's my pleasure to introduce our special guest today, Debbie Whitmire, Chief Financial Officer at Miller Industries. Debbie's been with Miller Industries since 1996 and in her current role as CFO since 2017. She was part of the original team that implemented their first Infor solution, Bond 4C, back in 1999, and says she really enjoys the more technical side of finance. So welcome to our webinar today, Debbie.
Thanks, Brad.
Awesome. Well, so just to give a little bit of context for our participants today, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, introduce us to Miller Industries, and maybe tell a little bit about the history as a company and how you became the world leader in towing and recovery equipment?
Sure. As you mentioned, I've been with the company for 25 years and served in various roles with the company, and have been very involved in the more technical side of accounting. This means working very closely with operations and IT to truly understand the parameters and the processes driving those financial transactions from our 5 manufacturing subsidiaries. And at those locations, we purchase raw materials and other components, perform fabrication processing, and assemble those components to deliver a finished towing and recovery unit that is for installation on a chassis purchased by a third-party supplier similar to the one that you see here in this picture.
Excellent. All right. So today we've been talking about analytics adoption. But before we really get into the details of that, can you maybe paint a picture for us what it was like maybe 2 to 3 years ago trying to run your business before you deployed analytics with Infor Burst? Where were you at from a data and analytics perspective, and how was that kind of working out for you guys?
It was very similar to the picture that you painted earlier in your presentation, where we had data silos. A lot of information obviously resided in our ERP system, but downloads were taken, additional analysis and analytics was done from that information. Many times duplicate information was re-entered onto spreadsheets. So very, very similar to the picture that you painted. It was obviously very inefficient, had conflicting results from those calculations depending on who was doing those calculations and what perspective they had. So not very efficient at all and extremely time consuming. And what it did require was a very good understanding of those processes and parameters, because you didn't even know where to go to find the information in a lot of cases. So definitely needed an upgrade.
Excellent. Well, we're super excited that you decided to go down the path with Infor Analytics. Can you tell us a little bit about what data and analytics goals you and the executive team set at Miller Industries?
Sure. Our CEO is very technologically savvy. He's very data driven. And fortunately, we have a lot of employees here with long tenure with the company, so have very good intuitive instincts. But obviously, data-driven decisions are much better decisions when you can support it with facts and numbers. So, he kind of challenged me to say, I've seen these dashboards. People can pull things up on their phone and see, what their sales were the same day last year, as he was speaking to other people in other industries. So, when I saw the Infor products, I thought, this looks like what we need. So, my challenge for myself was to make sure that he had the data that he needed at his fingertips before he even knew he needed it. So what we did is sat down with the CEOs and the senior management team to say, what are your needs? What are you monitoring? What keeps you up at night? And conducted internal interviews to find out what the most important things to all of our senior managers and executives was. And from there, we developed the first 4 dashboards. And of course, as you can well imagine, the heartbeat of the company: sales, accounts receivable, purchasing, and labor expense and efficiency. So, that's where we started. And we took the approach to talk to those people and make sure that they had that dashboard. So the CEO was the first one with access to the dashboard. So he started using them and started asking questions of his senior managers. And then they started asking questions for their managers. So the cascading trickle down effect didn't take long at all to spread through the company. So starting at the top certainly had a lot of buy-in, because each manager that was asked the question wanted to make sure they were looking at the same calculations, the same data that they were getting questioned on. So it was a very quick rollout. The tool was very easy to use, very intuitive. So we had great success in the first 90 days getting those 4 dashboards rolled out.
Well, that's awesome. And no one wants to come into a meeting with their CEO and he has the answer and you don't, right? So that's a great strategy to really push out adoption. So we understand that your organization reached an industry-leading 100% adoption of analytics, which is just absolutely incredible. And we're so happy that you were able to leverage our platform technologies to make that happen. Can you tell us a little bit about what unique aspects of our solution helped you achieve that goal?
Basically, the ease of use and the adaptability, the filtering system. It's very intuitive for the user. And as I mentioned earlier, if you don't understand the parameters inside an ERP system, it's very difficult to get to the things that you need. So the cross functionality of being able for an operations staff person to be able to see financial information at his fingertips. If I'm looking at the financials and ask him a question, for him to be able to go to his dashboard and filter and find the exact same thing that I'm looking at is as easy as a phone call today. Historically it was, I would download the report, send it, they would analyze it and look at it. But today we can literally have a phone conversation, via Teams, via whatever, at any location in the world that we have. As long as we're both looking at the same dashboard, drilling down into information, we can solve an issue immediately. That's
huge. And that's really what we were talking about earlier, that time to value, time to insight. I mean, that's a game changer in an organization. So now that we know a little bit more about Miller Industries, let's talk a little bit about analytics culture, because I think that is so key to driving adoption. Can you tell us a little bit about how you personally have driven analytics adoption from the top down and what that looked like in Miller Industries?
Sure. As we mentioned, having 5 locations around the world, multiple managers, supervisors, and everyone having a different approach to how they measure themselves and the activity going on within those facilities or those departments. Having meetings, explaining the data, explaining where it's coming from, making them comfortable with the data, showing them how you can tie what you're looking at within your ERP system and the dashboard that is available to them and to upper management from them. Just making sure that they are comfortable with that information and understanding where it's coming from it is the key. If they trust the product, they trust the information that they're looking at, adoption becomes easy at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that we hear a lot in the industry is, talking about data democratization, or really what I would say is self-service, right? So what does self-service look like now at Miller Industries?
It's funny. As we roll more dashboards out, obviously it creates time for us to create more dashboards because things get more efficient, things get easier. But what we've found now is if there is someone who has been exposed to the tools and they have a repetitive process, be it a report, mining of information, anything that they do on a consistent, repetitive basis, they'll actually search us out and say, hey, can you set up a dashboard for me for this? So, knowing the ease that they see other people pick up their mobile device, look up information, have it right at their fingertips. A perfect example of the way that we use it at the C-suite level is when we sit down to do a revenue budget. a historical view of how it worked was we'd sit down, we'd look at the different models or products and determine, how many did we sell last year? How many do we think we're going to sell in the coming year? What's the average selling price per model or per product? I literally don't even have to do anything. Our CEO has his phone in his hand and he's going through burst dashboards and, he's picking up all of this information and he's telling me what it needs to be rather than him asking me questions. So I kid with him all the time and joke and say that it's my twin sister.
Well, I did, when I was talking to Will the other week, he did mention that he no longer gets any Excel spreadsheets. And secondly, he hasn't had to go to IT in over a year to have them build something that he pretty much self-serves. So that's unbelievable adoption.
Right.
So we know one of the things that we think is important is, everyone kind of speaking the same language, and data and analytics can become that kind of common language across the organization. How has that changed how management communicates within the organization? How has that changed the conversation? And how has it changed things like even mentoring?
Well, it certainly makes us more proactive. I mean, instead of spending a lot of time looking historically to figure out what happened, it's constantly updated. You have real-time information. So meetings are more about, here's where we are, here's what has happened, how do we move forward? So I'd say it's made us much more strategic, much more forward thinking. And, obviously as we have new employees come on board, to be able to show them how to analyze the company, how to utilize those tools, sets a good tone for what we want the company to be in the future. So, to have a new employee come in and look at the way we're analyzing something, the ease with which you can do it, they say, well, have you ever thought about it looking at it this way? Why do you do it that way? So to challenge us, and if there is another suggestion, it's a very easy process to put, a different KPI in, a different metric, a different view of the same information. So it's almost real time. As the demonstration showed, it's almost, self-service as far as creating quick ad hoc reports to say, well, let's try it. Let's see what it would look like that way. So definitely opens the imagination for, well, what if you looked at it this way? It's very easy to do. And, you can come up with some different KPIs or, expand on what you already have very quickly.
Well, that's awesome. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we see as well, is just that ability to experiment, and really bring new ideas to market really fast. And I think that's a perfect segue into the next question, which is, we've been talking about how analytics and adoption is so important for making better decisions, but especially when you're faced with something like a pandemic where the business model had to change very rapidly. Can you walk us through your recent use case where Infor's modern data architecture helped you make the right decisions around workforce management and keeping everyone safe and productive during the pandemic?
Sure. Well, being in the transportation industry, we were considered an essential business. So, finding a way to keep the business going, to keep the roadways open, and to keep our employees safe was a bit of a challenge. And it was something that would have to be done, obviously, very quickly. So, we had many brainstorming sessions about different ways to do that. And we're able to use the tools to quickly run what-if scenarios to find the best solution, to either validate or dismiss an idea as it came up. So, what we were able to do was simulate what it would look like to split our workforce in half. So, we were typically a 5-day-a-week operation with overtime as needed. But what we looked at is the possibility of a 4-on, 4-off shift. So what that did, it kept our capacity to fill customer demand, but it also allowed us to split our workforce and only have half of the people on site at one time, which certainly allowed for social distancing. So we were able to do some quick efficiency analysis to say, what kind of productivity would that give us if we did that, and got comfortable using the tool that a 4-on 4-off shift was our best solution. So we were able to, keep our employees safe by social distancing, keep customers happy with delivery of the product, and gain some efficiencies at the same time because we were able to, get better utilization out of our assets as well.
Well, that is amazing. And to me, that is the heart of data-driven decision making right there.
Right.
So we know you guys had lots of options out there when you were deciding to modernize your analytics. What made you decide to partner with Infor, and what are some of the main reasons why you personally are invested in that partnership?
Well, like we mentioned earlier, we've been a strategic partner with Infor for years, and have been very happy and successful with the products. I think our company shares the same vision that Infor does, to be competitive, be the best at what we are trying to accomplish, not try to be everything to everyone, just try to be very good at what we're good at. And I believe Infor has done that. The solution, the analytic solution, is one of the easiest tools that I personally have used to be able to communicate with our IT department and get these dashboards set up. Was literally a 2-day training process for me. It was very simple. It was very easy. So just the ease of use is I can't express how much that means to us, because we're a very agile company. We like to turn on a dime, as we say. So to have a plan and have it come to complete implementation in 90 days, that's something that's in the CEO's hands to be used, is very impressive. And obviously it makes me look good when I can deliver that fast. So, I've been impressed with the product, like I said, over the years that I've been here. But, Infor is a great partner for us. They're very willing to listen to suggestions. If we see something that we think would be best in class for the product, they're always willing to listen to suggestions from the customer, which, that's what makes us good at dealing with our customer base as well. If they want something different in a piece of towing equipment, they bring us an idea, and if it's something that the market needs, we try to be innovative and put that out. And like I said, Infor shares that same business philosophy.
Well, that's awesome. And, I just want to say first, how encouraging it is to see an organization that has seen tremendous value in driving adoption of analytics across the whole company. And two, I just wanted to say how much I appreciate you being here with us and telling your story and sharing from your experience. We really do appreciate it, and thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.